Hi everyone. In today's video we are going to talk about these beautiful flowering plants. These are the Sinningia Speciosa. They are better known as the gloxinias. So although they are popularly called gloxinias, they actually belong to the Sinningia genus. Okay, they were reclassified from Gloxinia to the Sinningia genus, but they still go by the name Gloxinia. In fact, there are a few other names. They are called bright eyes, they are called gloxina, violet slipper gloxinia, etc. So a few other names as well. These plants are native to the rainforests of Brazil, and that's why sometimes also called Brazilian gloxinia. Okay, they are perennial bulb and a relative of the African violets. So I have a couple of African violets here as well. Just to show you the difference. The difference is, of course, the leaves are very different. These leaves are a lot more ovate and they have the scalloped edges on the Sinningia, versus your African violet leaves are more rounder in shape. Moving on to the care tips for the Sinningia Speciosa. These flowers, if you start off with the flowers are very velvety. They are carried on these very slender stems. If you see these flowers, and then you have these large oval leaves that you have here, and as I said, they have these leaves have all scalloped edges. There are a few other varieties which may not have these scalloped edges and a little bit more roundish edges as well. Originally, these gloxinias, they were only grown from tubers or bulbs. And these bulbs went dormant in winter. And then these tubers or bulbs were replanted in the next season, and then it bloomed again. So that was the cycle that used to be with the original plants. Even now you have gloxinia bulbs available which you can grow, especially during spring. Late spring is when these plants start blooming, especially in the Indian conditions. So if you plant these bulbs in, say, early spring, you will have a wonderful show of flowers towards early winter. Mostly the ones that are bred in nurseries, they are grown from seeds. These seed grown hybrids, they produce a lot better blooms because they don't have to focus their energies on growing roots and then getting the leaves, etc. They also grow pretty quickly and they give you blooms very quickly. But the downside is that given that they don't have very developed tubers, they behave more like annuals. So sometimes if you see that your gloxinias are not coming back and you're not growing from tubers, they are likely to behave more like annuals than seasonal plants. So if you want to have your gloxinias growing year after year, then you will have to plant them from tubers. But if you just want them for the season, just for their showy, beautiful flowers, then just get blooming flowers or budding flowers from the nurseries and just grow them as annuals, and once they are done, they won't come back again. So that's the difference between the two, because a lot of people keep getting disappointed after the flowers fall off and then say, okay, my gloxinia is not blooming or my plant is dying. It's because they have been bred as annuals. Okay. Now this is about the plant. If I have covered African violet care very elaborately on this channel, so do look up that video as well to learn more about African violets and their care conditions. Gloxinias use a very similar kind of care, be it soil, watering, etc. Couple of tips to keep in mind when it comes to gloxinias. The potting mix has to be extremely well draining. Use potting mix rich with coco peat as well as perlite, etc. so that you can keep it moist. At the same time, it has to be very well draining. So two things, these plants do like high humidity, but they also don't like their roots to rot. So you need to give them a good mix of the two. So ensure that your soil dries quickly, but at the same time you need to keep it moist. This is the trick when it comes to gloxinias. The other thing is about watering. Never water their leaves. Any kind of watering on their leaves can form spots on the leaves, or the leaves can just dry and fall off. So whenever you want to water these plants, you just pick up the leaf very lightly and water the soil directly. So that's a very important tip when it comes to gloxinias. If you have a lot of yellow leaves, etc., it could be caused because of overwatering or too much of direct sunlight. They like bright light, but they do not like direct sunlight at all. And they can grow in shade. In fact, they can grow very well indoors as well if you have enough bright light inside. Anytime you have too much of light falling on the leaves or too much of sun falling on the leaves, you might get yellow leaves. Sinningia varieties are prone to pest attacks like spider mites or aphids attacks, etc. Or given that you're using moist soil, sometimes fungus gnats are also a problem. So ensuring that you keep track or keep a close watch on the plants is very important to ensure that these plants are kept free from all these pest attacks. Okay, so these plants don't grow too tall. So around 8 inches tall is what you can expect them to be, and provide good drainage to their roots so that the roots may not rot. At the same time, they like the humidity. So if you can't find humidity, like you may need to give them external help through humidifiers or a pebble tray kept under the bottom of the pot. That can help with increasing the humidity. Do not miss the leaves. As I said, don't water the leaves or don't miss the leaves, because it will cause other problems, especially with leaves just dropping off or over or forming brown spots. Now, given that they are from the Brazilian rainforest, try to maintain at least 50% of humidity around your gloxinias. Okay, so these are some of the important tips. So I've spoken about water and light and pests, as well as soil requirements. When it comes to fertilizing, they don't require too much of balanced fertilizer. So in the flowering season, give them a high rich phosphorus fertilizer or a good potash sprinkle as well, or you can just use organic vermicompost to fertilize them in the flowering season. So these are some of the care tips, very similar tips to the African violets. So if you can grow African violets well, these are plants that will thrive for you. I would say these are a little less fussy when compared to African violets. So if you, but they do have very sensitive, especially the stems, right? So you need to keep track of the stems, and if they require some support, you can always use a bamboo stick or some kind of stake to give them stability. Okay, so keep some of these tips in mind, and this is the season for especially the Sinningia Speciosa in the nursery. So if you find these lovely plants, get them home, get some with lots of buds. Don't get with too many flowers, already blooming flowers, because the flowers last about 5 to 6 days, right? So even if they are not blooming, get them with a lot of buds that you can so that you can prolong the blooming season. All right, thanks so much for watching, and keep watching more videos on this channel. Thank you.